Hi there, it's Jonathan Herps, founder and CEO of Scaling Up Growth Partners. Welcome to our Stories of Scaling Up series, where we're chatting with owners, managing directors, founders, and business leaders of scaling companies. It centers around their entrepreneurial journey so far and their aspirations for their companies. Today, I'm speaking to Antony Dutton, managing director of Provender Australia. Have I got that right, Antony?
Provender?
Provender Australia. Welcome.
Thank you, Jonathan. Thank you very much for having me.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to our conversation. So tell me, let's start with what does Provender do and how long have you been doing it?
Okay, so Provender originated over 20 years ago as a vending organisation, franchise group with franchisees across the country.
So when we say vending, we're talking about vending machines.
We're talking about vending machines, drink and snack, traditional drink and snack vending machines, a large franchise network across Australia. We currently have 45 franchisees and service agents from Perth to Townsville, northern Tasmania, so all over Australia. So the background really was around drink and snack vending. Over the last number of years, we've looked at in terms of what's next. I'm a great believer in innovation technology. I come from 20 years in technology. And it was really looking at, well, where can we go from now? So we don't look at ourselves anymore as a vending organisation. Very much we see ourselves as what we call unintended retail. And by unintended retail, I mean in terms of we deliver solutions to our customers, to organisations using unattended retail, whether that's by vending, whether it's by what we call a micro market, which is essentially a cafe, which is unattended in terms of human unattended. People go along and they pay. They go out from a fridge, from a kiosk. They go along, pick the goods out, and then go to a kiosk and pay for those goods. And also via smart fridges, which is essentially a fridge full of goods. You go and tap and pay with your smartphone, a smartphone, I should say, your smartwatch, etc. The fridge door opens. You take out the goods. And then essentially using that device, it charges your device for those goods that have come out of the fridge. So we very much see the future is around unattended retail. There's this huge amount of opportunities, a huge amount of technology from a global perspective. And what we're doing at Provender is bringing that to the Australian market. We traditionally service from hospitals, some of the largest gym networks in Australia, some of the largest enterprise customers with a variety of different services. And as we go through this journey now, we're looking to roll out these, some new technologies, some new types of offering into our customers and hopefully new customers as we go forward.
Great. So tell me, who is your best customer?
So, I mean, in terms of our largest customers, we have some of the largest in terms of New South Wales Health. We service Western Sydney Health. We have some of the largest distribution companies, logistics companies in Australia. In terms of the gym groups, we have the largest gym group. There's some of the customers from an office environment as well. We service a number of offices across Australia for some of our enterprise customers. A lot of what we're doing at the moment is quite sort of at the forefront of, it's particularly around our micro markets that they're offering, that, the offerings that we're putting out there. So we're quite a little bit sensitive, Jonathan, in terms of the names, in terms of who we're dealing with at the moment. It's very much about breaking new space, and it's exciting times for us. But what I will say is that we've got some of the largest companies in the world that we service at the moment.
So if I can explore that micro market a little bit further.
Sure.
So my image of you is, I live in Barrow. So if I catch the train from Sydney down to Barrow, there's a drinks machine and a chocolate chip machine there, ready for me to take my card.
Sure.
That's not the micro market. Is that you? And then how does the micro market and things like that enhance on that?
Sure. So that's your traditional vending machine. Mm-hmm. What we're looking at really is a micro market is essentially a small convenience store or a small cafe that's in a trusted environment. because it's essentially you go up, anyone can go up, pick a good or a service out of that market, out of that shop, if we want to call it a shop. And it's an honesty system in such that you go along and you have to tap and pay those, like if you go to Woolies or Coles and you go and using the barcode, the technology, essentially you tap those through. You can see on the kiosk everything that you paid for, and then it charges your card for those products that you've taken. So a micro market is essentially, it needs to be in a trusted environment. You need to have a minimum number in that environment. So, we're not talking 10 or 50 or even 100 staff. There needs to be more staff than that. Essentially, we are providing a food service in the workplace, and that's its sweet spot. If you go overseas, particularly in the US, you'll find that most large manufacturing plants, logistics, etc., the staff are generally fed through via micro market. And one of the key advantages of a micro market, of course, is it's very quick. Staff can go there, they can grab what they want, and they just go and tap it, and then they can sit down and have their lunch. So it's a huge savings in terms from a time perspective. The ability, of course, is it's 24/7. It doesn't need to be manned all the time. So we actually, our operators will come in based upon, we can see in the software, the technology we have in terms of when food needs to be updated, whether it's fresh food, sandwiches, ready-made meals. We even do sushi days, through to, you said it's sort of dry goods, drinks, cold drinks, in terms of providing coffee as well. So, a full coffee service as well. And that's one of the big advantages. If it's 24/7, we can provide, that service unattended, and people can use it any time of day. And of course, we can do things such as from an employer perspective, like subsidisation. If staff want to subsidise the meals for their staff, or what we are seeing is a number of the, I guess, more healthy type of options in the micro market, and employers will subsidise those those goods and drinks in that type of environment. And of course, it's a big thing now around customer retention. Looking after yourself, part of their well-being, providing them that sort of meal service. Although it's quite new to Australia where it's subsidised, if you go overseas, it's quite standard, and it's just part of the, a part of the offer that's that a lot of that employers provide. And of course, the technology companies, of course, it's pretty standard in the technology space these days in an office environment.
So tell me, you mentioned early on that traditionally vending machines were managed by franchisees. Is that right?
Yes.
Are you still running that model?
Absolutely. I'm a great believer in the franchise network, in franchising in general in Australia. I think we have a huge geographic area to cover. We have very high wages, and we have a relatively small population footprint. So, franchising works very well in the Australian environment, and it's certainly in terms of the offerings that we provide, it provides a great opportunity for small business owners to own their own markets, own their own vending machines, and also, have, I guess, the peace of mind that a lot of the back office is taken care of, not to mention sales and marketing. But like any environment, any business, any industry these days, there's more and more compliance. There's a lot of things that we have to deal with around food safety, etc. And that I think it works very well in our industry, franchising.
Okay. So look, we've all been through the pandemic. What actions did you take that you took in the pandemic that have remained part of business going forward?
Be decisive. I think it's very important that we had a very clear plan of action when it hit. And of course, in our industry, we're reliant on foot traffic, whether that be in an office, whether that be in a hospital, whether it be in a gym. So we were certainly an industry that was hit very, very hard by the pandemic. And look, it was, we had a very clear plan in terms of what we were going to do at the start, through the middle and out the other side. So I think being decisive is a clear action. I think the second point, we were, again, coming from the technology background, I implemented Microsoft Teams just before the pandemic hit. And look, a lot of what we've done, we implemented during the pandemic, we still do today in terms of the rhythm. So I'm a big believer in terms of rhythm, in terms of meeting rhythm, whether it's virtual, that you have those same meetings weekly, monthly, etc. And we continue on with that. Even though we started a lot of those meetings during the pandemic, we have a weekly staff meeting. It only goes for 15 minutes virtually. Mm-hmm. But that's one of the key things is for me is in terms of making sure that we've got continuity and actions. Continuity of, and that that's something that we continue on with to this day.
It's interesting you make the comment about being decisive. It's to me it's one of the key criteria of being a leader. And I was reviewing some blogs I'd written some time ago early this morning, and one of them was a blog about Jeff Bezos, and he has this concept within Amazon, or had this concept within Amazon of one-way door and two-way door decisions. I don't know if you've heard of that. But a one-way door decision is something like, we're going to go to a different country, or we're going this in the stock market. Really big, impactful decisions on a business. Where a two-way door decision could be, we're going to hire a new business development manager, and you can go through that door and come back quickly if it doesn't work out. Mm-hmm. And linked in with that, decisive decision making, the two-way door decision versus one-way door decision is a really interesting, or it's a really valuable model to put in place. That you can come back.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, for us, it's very much been. We've certainly made some of those one way, one door. Yeah. Going into new markets and venturing outside of, I guess, that traditional space.
Yeah, very much so. So, what does the future look like, and what do you see as your main challenges going forward?
Jonathan, for us, it's a really interesting question, and it's a very dynamic space that we work in. Look, in terms of the future, as we see a great move to unattended retail, pre-pandemic, people that could, technology we saw in our vending business, 50% of people would still be cash and coin versus tap and pay, and now you sort of a lot of the business is sort of over 90%. Where it's tap and pay. So it doesn't matter if someone's, 6 years of age to, over 80 years of age, everyone knows how to tap and pay now. So what probably was going to take 10, 15 years, took 2 years. So we've seen a great opportunity come out of people understand unattended retail. A lot of the research shows that a lot of millennials, a lot of people actually under the age of 30 prefer not to engage with a customer, with a shopping attendant. McDonald's has actually done some research around this in the US. In terms of at a kiosk in McDonald's, people buy millennials, will buy 25% more, spend 25% more if they don't engage with an attendant. They actually go up to the McDonald's kiosk and they tap in what they want. They'll pay more. So consumer behaviour is changing a lot, and it's changing very quickly. And it's not just now for the younger generations. So there's a great opportunity here where the norm is around unattended retail. So that's first of all. Secondly, just in terms of the situation we find ourselves in with employment. I should say, lack of resources. Yeah. And it's a huge issue. It's a huge issue. It's a huge issue in food and beverage, full stop. There's a lot of people out there that own food and beverage organisations that just cannot find staff at the moment. And to be honest, they're getting towards, it's a lot of people talk about in that space as well, the real pandemics now, because we can't go on like this another 6 months and not have resources, and we can't have staff. So unattended retail, does have, a huge amount to pay because, again, we're providing a service where you don't need those staff anymore. And the third is around cost, which is not just in terms of human resources, but the cost of products as well. And a good example of this, of course, is in terms of coffee. We're seeing obviously the significant increase in the price of coffee. People going to a cafe and necessarily buying 2, 3, or 4 coffees a day is those days at the prices is changing. So again, we're providing a coffee service which is a hell of a lot cheaper, unattended, in a very good product, I should say, as well, in different environments that we service. So there's a huge amount of opportunity coming downstream from that perspective. Against the backdrop of that, I think, is that there is that uncertainty. There is that uncertainty in terms of what is next, and I think everyone's facing that. And it's like I said, I'll say you can only control what you can control. For us as well, I think from a resourcing perspective, from a franchise management office, I'm very lucky. I've got a great team, and we've been very fortunate in terms of needing to employ new staff. We have done post-pandemic. We've increased our head office number, but it isn't easy. And I think that's a challenge that everyone's will continue to face, and we're no different in that department.
It's interesting you say that. And the one thing that I'm coaching my clients on all the time now is the whole return to office, stay remote, hybrid, etc. And as you say, in the technology companies have provided food canteens, etc. for many years. And plus ping pong tables and everything else. But it's a number of my clients are looking for incentives to the larger clients to bring staff back at least 2 to 3 days a week. And I can see there's a real benefit in providing what you provide.
Look, it's interesting. We've in what you're saying there, we've spoken to a large number of potential customers over the last, in particular the last 6 months. And there's a real range of views, and even within a larger enterprise organisation, between what maybe, say, the HR or wellness manager might be thinking versus another part of the business. And I'm actually a little bit surprised, like in terms of a lot of the time when we talk to decision makers in some of these key enterprise accounts, in terms of they're just not. I don't think there's a clear view in terms of what they want to do. And
I totally agree with you there. Yeah.
And look, I think part of it, as well, as we all know, is with unemployment the way it is, that no one wants to step on anyone's employees' toes, that if we make change, we force them to come back. All those sorts of things that, are they going to look elsewhere? So it's I see there's a great range of views there in terms of when we talk to different organisations. Look, we've certainly been involved in discussions with organisations saying, look, we're going to get our staff back. This is going to be part of, this is great what you guys are offering, to we love it, but we've got no staff here. And we don't know when they're coming back.
Yeah.
And we've got 400, desks sitting here, but we're not sure when they're coming back. So, there's such a broad range at the moment, and it's really interesting, and we're having some great conversations particularly in the enterprise space with a lot of organisations. But there's certainly no one size fits all, or such and such is doing it, I'm going to follow the leader sort of behaviour by any means.
And I think you've alluded to it already. It's the adaptation of technology that it drives a lot of this. I mean, certainly the feeling I'm getting is a hybrid model seems to be the way it's going forward. And unless you say the New South Wales government, where they want to get people back to work because the CBDs are dying. But that hybrid model of wanting to get teams together at least 1 or 2 days a week seems to be the the model that's going there now. I mean, so can we explore that? How would your I forgot the terminology, unmanned kiosk, fresh food, etc. How would that work on a hybrid model? Say a business wanted to bring their teams back together for 2 days a week. How is that? Can you adapt to that?
We can. It really comes down to numbers. The biggest thing for us is that, if you've got an office of 1,000 and you've got 200 every day, absolutely. If you've got 150 staff and only 20 are going to be there every day, it doesn't scale down by any means. Of course, it depends on, if it's free food for everyone, it certainly changes the equation as well. So, it really, the way we approach it very much is working with our customers in terms of developing a solution for them, and coming back to them. And it may well be just vending to start with. It may be that's what they need, or there's a coffee service that they, that's the starting point. And again, we are working with our customers in terms of innovative ways, in terms of, helping them as part of that wellness program to get them back to work. It is a very, for a lot of organisations, it is quite, it's a very sensitive.
No, I totally agree.
Position, and it's and as I said, I think that not rocking the boat. But look, there's going to come. I think there's a time as well where, like any organisation, I think bringing through new people into the business, juniors coming in, the lack of transfer of knowledge. I mean, all those sort of things.
Mentorship, mentoring, everything.
Mentoring. I'm sure all those things that you speak to a lot of your clients about, Jonathan. How long that goes on for. And I think what we see, because we are a national business, is that it is very different on a state by state. If you look at Perth versus Melbourne, for example, where there hasn't been a great deal of stay at home in Perth, unless it's been a national or an international decision by a head office. People are back in the office and nothing has really changed. Certainly in my travels between Sydney and Melbourne, it's, there's still a lot of people that aren't in those CBD locations, and outside of that, there is a hybrid. I agree with you. It does seem to be, from a white collar perspective, very much the model that we are in at the moment. I'll be interested to see how that transpires if we had the same conversation in 1 or 2 years from now.
No, I totally agree with you. What about regional areas, Anthony? I mean, what's your coverage? The reason I'm asking that, I was with a client team in Goulburn last week, and they provide food in the office, but I'm sure there's an easier way of doing it than the way they do. Do you have regional coverage?
We do have regional coverage. We have a lot of Queensland, New South Wales, and Victoria. We've a little bit, obviously less coverage. Sorry, I should say ACT as well. Little less coverage outside of, in West Australia, it's Perth Metro that we cover as well. So, we have quite a bit of coverage in regional Australia as well.
Super. So
we're always looking to. We're always we're never sitting still. We've brought on a number of new franchisees in the last 6 months. Some of those are regional. In Ipswich, for example, in Queensland, we've just got a new franchisee on the Sunshine Coast. So we're always looking at. I should say also in Northern Tasmania as well, in Launceston. So regional is a really important part of our business, and we're always looking to expand where there's an opportunity, and it is commercially viable to branch into new areas around Australia.
Okay, great. So just changing tack a little bit. So what's been the biggest learning that you've had since becoming a business owner?
Look, the biggest learning for me is probably around people, in terms of getting the best out of your staff is what it's all about, and ensuring and making sure that they empowering them to do, seeing them grow. I've owned a number of businesses over the years, and I've seen a lot of people that started with me many years ago now go on to better and bigger things, and I think staff empowerment's really, really important going forward. I think the other piece is just in terms of ensuring that trust gutting, your gut instinct a lot of the time. If you feel that something's going to end up down the track and it's not going to work out, well, there's every chance, from my experience, it's not. And then the same goes the other way as well. Seize on the opportunities that if you see there's an opportunity now, it's all about being able to pivot quickly, understand where there is an opportunity, and and going for it without remembering what's keeping the lights on as well.
Yeah. Okay. Great. Tell me, when you think about the word successful, who pops to mind first, and can you tell me why?
Elon Musk.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason simply is that when he sold PayPal, he obviously put his money into 3 new ventures, of course, SpaceX being the most successful, but he was very clear in terms of what he was looking to do. I think his 3 initial business plans have not really altered on those businesses. And I think, in terms of success, he could have walked away, but you keep going and you try and he's put it all back on the line. So I think in terms of success, there is no one more successful than him. I think what he did with Tesla in terms of, like, it's not just about building a new car, it's building a whole new technology from scratch, and being completely integrated. So amazing, sort of obviously amazing from a successful, but a very clear plan, which I think, which is what I take away from that.
Yeah, I think his adaptability as well is a huge one. The purpose of Tesla initially was essentially electric vehicles. The purpose of Tesla now is actually power the world via electric batteries. So that's quite a significant move to the big gig battery farms as well, battery factories as well. So SpaceX, Tesla. Third one is at the Boring Company, or
the solar. Okay, solar. Well, I can't remember what it's called now. You got me.
Okay, sorry.
That was the original one, anyway.
I quite like the Boring Company, which, if you haven't heard of it, Alice hasn't heard. It's a business building tunnels under cities to move cars very, very quickly.
Yes. Yeah. I'm not. Yeah, where that fits in, I'm not quite sure.
I don't know where it fits in either.
Yeah, but I'm sure there's probably more as well.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, but certainly, as you say, bold and backing himself. Certainly, it's quite he's obviously an extraordinary. Are you a reader? Any books, blogs, podcasts you'd recommend?
Look, in terms of my reading is quite extensive. I'm a bit of I guess I read a lot. There's no one that I would say that sort of stands out. I think it's really important from my perspective is that looking at things from different sides. So if there is someone, who's got a particular, I guess, viewpoint, or this is why it works for them, or why does it, or why should it? And I think it's important that you've got to be able to challenge what may be the state of normal, the way of doing things. I think that's really important from a knowledge. And just because it works for someone doesn't mean it's necessarily going to work for you. I think that's really important. That you're constantly challenging and really looking for, how does this adapt to me and my business, and how is it going to actually help me? There's a lot of stuff out. There's a lot of self-help, or this is how we quickly silver bullet, and it's amazing what someone may have done, and etc. But the reality is with business, from my experience, is that there is no such thing as a silver bullet. But reading and knowledge is plays an incredible part in terms of in terms of your journey, and along the way picking up those pieces and those those takeaways is really important, and how you throw that back into the mix in terms of how you manage your business is really important.
It's interesting you say that. One of the things I coach often is R&D, rip off and duplicate. There's always someone that's been there's definitely someone who's been out there, done that, what you're trying to do, and probably better that you can find and copy what they've done. And trying to reinvent the wheel from day one is, you're on a hiding into nothing. So rip off and duplicate. And within my business, I'll always give accreditation as to where I've got it from. But I'm borrowing frameworks, tools, strategies for my clients from everywhere, because someone's always done it before now.
Absolutely, and I couldn't agree more, John. There's a lot of as you said, there's something out there, and what I guess one of my learnings as well has been how to adapt learnings into our market.
Yeah.
As I said, I came from a software background where I worked a lot with the likes of Microsoft and Oracle, and there's a lot of I guess there's a lot of marketing around this bit of software may work in this environment, but one of the biggest lessons I learned is how do you actually downscale technology into our market, and that's really important to understand, because we are a very small market. Unless you're looking to export, and I don't get me wrong, there's some great young entrepreneurs in the startup and well beyond that now, and mature technology space. But you need to be able to adapt in our market. I think that's the key thing about adaptability. How do you actually make it work in our environment, in our market, with a relatively very small population, with very high wages as well?
Yeah.
So how do you actually make that work? That's definitely one of the things I've learned along the way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I agree. Got some any last piece of advice or parting words for CEOs or aspiring CEOs out there? Aspiring CEOs, it's easy. Take one of your franchises.
Of course. Look, I think just a couple of points. One would be that it is always important to build moats around your business. And you said that I wouldn't say I'm an avid Warren follower, but I do think there's a lot of truth in that. You need to be. It doesn't matter what you do. Thinking about how you actually build, moats around your business is really important. You need to have a competitive advantage. You need to have differentiators. And in terms of whether that's and from an intellectual property perspective as well, it's really important that you've got whatever intellectual property you have in your business, which is often in a lot of people's heads. How do you actually transfer that knowledge? How do you actually ensure that there is a path, as people move out of your business, that knowledge is there, and it's not just taken with them, because that's really important. But the most important piece of advice is to always have an exit strategy. You need to have an exit strategy. The ship always needs to know where it's going to sail, and even if it might sail and end up sailing in a different direction, it's important that you've got that. Because without that, and I've seen it happen with many people in business, they're just not quite sure where they're going. Doesn't always lead to such a successful exit down the track. And particularly if you've got business partners involved and you've got different positions in terms of how you actually want to exit out, etc. That can get very complicated.
It's a very, very good point you've just made, and it was I had a really interesting conversation with one of my client teams, the leadership teams last week. We do some of my clients. We do 1 or 2 days, full day quarterly strategic planning, and we had a new marketing director started, and she asked the question of the owner, "What's your exit strategy? What is your plan?" And and this is a really smart guy. But one of the reasons he's hired me is actually to build that exit strategy, because one of the issues with private companies and different founders or family companies is, they build and build and build, and suddenly it's like, well, what are we going to do? And someone may get sick, someone, a partner may want to get out, etc. And if they haven't built the company to be able to be sold, which means, let's detail every single process in absolute detail with checklists and SOPs and everything else, so that someone can actually come in and actually take over the company and understand it, and that the company can drive. It's a self-managing company that can grow without the founder. If you're not set up like that and something goes wrong, you just won't get the multiples. What's the average sale multiple for a private company? Maybe 3 times if you're lucky, 1.5 times if you've got no processes in place, 7 to 8 times if you've got it all set up, people's, everybody doing the right things in the right seats. It makes an extraordinary difference to an exit. Areas that I spend a lot of time with my clients is preparing them for an exit that may never happen, but putting those things in place so that they have options. And why are we an entrepreneur? To take cash out of the business or sell it for a profit. At the end of the day, that's the reason we're here. That's a very, very good point, Antony. Thank you for that. You're the first person that's raised that, which I'm really pleased you did.
I've been around the block a couple of times, Jonathan. That's probably why.
Yeah, and look, that's one of the reasons I'm loving doing what I'm doing with these interviews. It's they're great conversations, and thank you for joining me.
Thank you, Jonathan. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah,
Thank you.
No, I've enjoyed it enormously as well. Thank you.